Presentation of South Korea by Michael Shackelford and Talia Kramer. As you can see, South Korea is the southern tip of the Korean Peninsula, west of China and east of Japan. History of South Korea. After World War II, Japanese occupation ends with Soviet troops occupying the north and the U.S. occupying the south. 1948 is when the Republic of Korea was proclaimed. 1950 was declares independence, sparking the North Korean invasion or the Korean War. 3 years later, the armistice ends the Korean War, which cost 2 million lives. 1963, General Park restores some freedom and proclaims Third Republic. Major industrial development begins. 1980, martial law declared after students demonstrates in the city of Gwangju. At least 200 killed by the army, causing resentment, and a Fifth Republic is made. 1998, Kim Dae-jung, sworn in the president, pursues Sunshine Policy, which pursues to give the North unconditional economic support. In 2000, June, summit between Kim Jong-un and the Korean president Dae-jung. North stops propaganda broadcasts in the South. August, the border liaison offices reopen and 3,500 prisoners go back to North Korea. The government structure is a republic, a three-branch system: executive, national assembly, and judicial. Executive is led by the president, which is elected for a single 5-year term. The president is approved by the National Assembly. National Assembly has 299 representatives, which serve 4-year terms. Judicial offers the Constitutional Court. As you see here, the Korean flag mix up of yin and yang. The top right is water, bottom right is earth, bottom left is fire, and top left represents heaven. Economic stats. GDP is 1.784 trillion in 2014. In 2013, it was 1.727 trillion US dollars. The GDP per capita is 35,414, and the capita was 34,200 in 2013. Unemployment rate is 3.5%, and inflation is at 1.3%. The trade statistics include a current account balance of 89.22 billion US dollars, which they rank 4th in the world. Export commodities include semiconductors, petrochemicals, auto parts, ships, wireless communication equipment, flat displays, steel, electronics, plastics, and computers. The main export partners include China at 25.4%, US at 12.3%, Japan 5.6%, Hong Kong 4.8%, and Singapore at 4.2%. Import commodities include crude oil, petroleum products, semiconductors, natural gas, coal, steel, computers, wireless communication equipment, automobiles, fine chemicals, and textiles. Import partners include China at 17.1%, Japan 10.2%, US at 8.7%, Saudi Arabia 7%, Qatar at 4.9%, Germany at 4.1%. The exchange rate in currency and unit of measure: the South Korean won, or KRW, is to 0.00084 US dollars, and then the 1 US dollar is 1,130.33 KRW. And unit of measure since 1948 is the metric system. The official holidays include the Seoul Holiday Day 1, 2, and 3. It's a combination of Korean and the Chinese New Year's. And then it's the Independence Movement Day, which goes back to 1919, with a group of students started uprising in Tokyo and started the movement for independence from Japan. Children's Day is a celebration that focuses on improving social status of children. Buddha's birthday, celebration of Buddha's birthday. Liberation Day, South and North Korea celebrate. They both celebrate it because it's the liberation from Japan. Uh, Mid Autumn Festival Day, it's similar to our Thanksgiving, um, or this time around the year, celebration of the harvest. National Foundation Day goes back and celebrate the kingdom of Jojoseon. And the Hangul Proclamation Day is to celebrate their language and literature. Languages and religion. The languages are Korean and English. English is taught and as a second language in middle and high school. The religions include Catholic, Protestant, Buddhist, atheist, or other. Catholic is 7.6%, Protestant is 24%, Buddhist is 24.2%, and none or atheist is 43.30, and other is 0.9%.
South Korea is a very homogeneous country and is almost entirely inhabited by Korean residents. Out of a total population of approximately 49 million people, there are only about 20,000 Chinese residents. Some general etiquette for meals in South Korea. When at home, Koreans traditionally sit on the floor. The most formal and polite posture is to kneel with one's back kept straight and with one's weight on the balls of both feet. Remember to serve others before yourself. Remember that food and drink is a huge part of Korean social interaction. The host will be excited to introduce their food and culture to a foreign guest. Never point with chopsticks or use them for anything other than their intended purpose. Some general etiquette for meetings. Give them your full attention. Do not be distracted during an initial meeting. It is always best to be humble and assume that who you're talking to is above you in the social hierarchy. The exchange of business cards is very important and makes a good first impression. If meeting a group of people, address each one of them in turn, taking care to acknowledge each with a slight bow. Handshakes are common, but wait for the eldest individual to extend their hand first, and also use both hands when shaking hands. South Korea's rank on the World Corruption Index is a score of 55. This is out of a scale of 0, meaning highly corrupt, to 100, which is very clean. So South Korea ranks in about the middle. The World Business Index ranks economies on their ease of doing business from 1 to 189. The rank for South Korea has a very high ranking of 4 out of 189 economies. Importance of religion and family in the culture and work life. There is a great deal of diversity in South Korean religious life. Koreans have traditionally combined elements from different belief systems such as Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism. Ancestor worship plays a prominent role in Korean folk belief. This system regards death as a rite of passage to a new state rather than an ending. Christian, Buddhist, and Confucian concepts also affect Korean attitudes towards death. There are detailed and elaborate rules governing one's speech and actions in the presence of older persons. Although divorce was not tolerated in the past, today it has become quite common. Koreans have a great respect for the family and hierarchy. Traditionally, Korean marriages were arranged, especially among the rich and powerful. The typical South Korean household consists of a nuclear family with 2 children. Core beliefs and values. South Koreans have a very strong cultural identity. Dress is conservative and professional. Manners and respect are taken very seriously. Respect for parents and for elders in general is a central value for Koreans. Age-old games and ceremonial dances are still performed at festivals and other special occasions. Some misconceptions that others may have about South Korea is that all Koreans eat dog meat, that they live in fear of war with North Korea, all Koreans like kimchi and spicy food, Koreans are terrible drivers, and that racism is common. Some main do's and taboos include, for the do's, over politeness will never hurt. A polite bow is required. Make a note of how deep the other person bows and then bow slightly deeper. When leaving a group, bow to them individually and thank them for their company. Keep your voice tone moderate since speaking in a soft voice is preferred. Taboos include that facial hair is considered unprofessional. Body piercings other than earrings are not common. Aggressive friendliness is not encouraged. And be mindful of gestures made with cutlery, especially chopsticks. Concerns that I would have doing business with South Korea include that women professionals, even with top university degrees, are still relegated to secretarial jobs, accounting, or educational work. Because of the Japanese colonial period, Koreans may have an emotionally intense reaction to things Japanese. Any comparative mention of Japan versus Korea may harm a business deal. Westerners attach a great importance to a written contract, whereas Koreans, on the other hand, value a contract as loosely structured and leave sufficient room to permit flexibility and adjustment. The negotiating style is particularly important. Koreans can prove subtle and effective negotiators and don't appreciate a rigid negotiating stance. Your offer may be turned down because the Korean customer does not like your style. What we found interesting about South Korea is that even when not in the presence of their elders, Koreans are generally still very courteous and emotionally reserved. South Koreans were traditionally expected to have jobs for life, but in 1997, the economy suffered a drastic collapse. For the first time in a generation, workers were facing major layoffs. The best-known traditional Korean sport is the martial art of Taekwondo. The 1988 Summer Olympic Games were held in Seoul. South Korea has a well-established social hierarchy, and it is important to understand both verbal and nonverbal communication. And lastly, South Koreans love kites and kite flying.